Tree, plus I got this brown in me. Jelly yellow dancing on me, so she smelled the green on me. And she straight from California, freaky, yeah, she wanna be. Tell me she like boys and girls, oh well, that's okay for me. And she said, my old boo left me blue, I really love it. She said, so cold and so cruel, so many colors. She said, play hoes like Pro Tools, can't never trust them, trust them now. Fuck them, oh.
Today, as promised, we're going to be talking about how I edit my photography. It's me, Oliver, and I'm back to show you guys how I get my pictures from SD card all the way to Instagram or portfolio, depending on where you want it. Today is part 1, and we're going to focus on using Lightroom today, and we're going to try editing 3 different pictures I have in mind. As you can tell, it's starting to rain, so I got to hurry up and get this shoot done so I don't fuck up my equipment and everything. Then we'll take it home to the office and edit there together. In my new neighborhood, we have this super beautiful fountain, as you can see where I brought us today. It's really pretty, and there's these lion statues and an empty fountain, and I thought this would be a fun place to take a really interesting, dynamic, and moody photo shoot. I also thought we could take pictures of a car that I spotted not far from here. I got a shot of it in my last video, but I kind of wanted to get a close-up and make it more moody. And my last idea will be indoors, so that way we can hurry and get inside before the rain comes in. And it's going to be in my laundry room, a low lighting specific example, so that way we can kind of talk about how I approach low light as well. I am feeling pretty under the weather today. I feel pretty demolished. My body is just having a hard time today. So I'm not going to burden you too much with that, but I'm just going to get the ball rolling, and since we're at the fountain already, I think this is the perfect place to start. So let me tell you about what I'm thinking for this location. All right, so according to my notes, I was thinking about getting something really strange and eerie by sitting right here in the pit of this empty fountain. I wanted to wear green today so that it can help match the foliage that I'm being surrounded by, and that's the main reason why I'm wearing green today. And as I mentioned, you want to plan out everything. You want to plan out outfits. Oh crap, it's starting to rain. Crap. All right, we'll try and hurry this up. But the composition, I'm going to try a centered composition with some symmetry here, and we're just going to see how that goes. All right, I tried. I really did. I just got back. Everything is soaking wet except for my camera because I was able to hide it under my shirt, and it was a long way back. It was a longer walk than I thought on the way there. Oh, God. As you can tell, it's soaking out there. My shirt, I'm just drenched. I'm drenched. So I gotta come up with a better idea because 2 of my shots were supposed to be outside. I really tried to get that last shot before I left, the first one at the fountain, but it was a disaster. I just hope my camera's okay. I'm gonna go check on it. And thankfully for my inside photo in the laundry room, I needed to change my outfit anyway. I'll go change and figure out what the hell I'm doing, and then we'll come back and figure it out together, okay? I promise. Kisses.
I'll hit you with my car. 1 sec, stay where you are. I think I know a place. Don't think we'll make it far. Have you screaming for the autopilot? I'ma hit you like autopilot. Come and dent my car. Blown back and shattered hearts. Disappear without trace. But you still left a mark. When you would scream autopilot. I'ma hit it like autopilot, yeah.
Okay, I'm a little upset because there was no weather warning today. It just looked a little gloomy, but not Not to the point that it was bad or like rainy, but apparently it is. This is the outfit for my inside photograph that I had planned in the laundry room, but now I gotta come up with 2 other ideas, and this is gonna kill me because it took forever to come up with something interesting for our topic. So I'm gonna guess. One thing on my mind is my bedroom is it's not unpacked at all. So maybe we could do some lonely inspired emotion in that room because it's so empty, it's so small. We could probably come up with something for that, right? I think we're just gonna stick to those 2 locations instead of 3 because that's gonna bug the fuck out of me. So I'm gonna just try to take multiple pictures from different angles in each room, and we're just gonna see how they end up once we get to the computer. So let's start with the laundry room shoot because I already know what I'm doing there, and hopefully by the time it's over, I'll have some sparks flying for the next room. So the idea for this picture, I guess our first one of the day, this is gonna be our low light example. I just wanted to talk about how I shape my light when it's especially hard with a single light going on, and how I'll use that to motivate the scene. And before we go into this is self-photography, self-portrait. So if you guys are in a similar boat and you're taking pictures of yourself, you have to understand that just like if you were shooting a model, you need to take multiple takes. You need to shoot everything multiple times, different angles, different color temperatures. Just give yourself variety so that when you get in the chair at the office desk, you have some options in front of you. When you get there, you're like, oh man, this one was a little bit out of focus, but the next one nailed it. So good, kudos, you know? So you want to make sure you're preparing yourself with a wide array of the same kind of picture. Same room, same subject, just different angles, different compositions, different framings. I have my fog machine right here. And I'm thinking about taking a photograph where it's just covering my face in this suit. So I also this is kind of funny, but I thought about this when we first moved in because I was moving everything in and out, and I was at the bottom of the staircase right here, and the laundry room is right across the hall from it. And so one of my roommates was in the laundry room, and we have a bar, like a light bar on the ceiling, and it's really dim and dingy in there. And just sitting at that low angle on the bottom step, looking up to see that lighting, it just looked really interesting to me, and I knew I was gonna take a picture of it eventually. So now we're gonna test what was going on in my head and how I'm gonna shape that to reality on my camera. So I say we just move in over there and start checking out what we can do. So this is the laundry room, and this is the bar that I was talking about. The single light, it's pretty dim. And I just kind of wanted to give you guys a peek into the room first, and then I'm gonna show you the angle that I wanted to shoot at first. So here's the room, really tiny, already at the end here. And that's the tripod right there. I'm hoping to put it on the ground right here and have it at a low angle looking up.
I know you think I'm crazy, you can't fool me, you're no lazy, lungs are feeling kinda hazy, making money without you, no more thrills and no more bills, smoking flower, feel the power of the planet, falling slowly on you, on you, honey.
We're at location 2. This is my bedroom. It's echoey as fuck, so I apologize if the audio is bad. As you can tell, nothing has been unpacked yet. Actually, you can't tell because the camera is at a weird angle, but there you go. Now you can see nothing has really been unpacked yet. So I'm thinking we can actually use this to our advantage to make it look claustrophobic and cluttered and lonely. My goal is I think I'm gonna sit in front of this mirror, and I'm going to make a medium shot of me sitting next to it, but on the side. I won't be facing the camera. And maybe I can edit it later so that I have two pictures, one where you can see my reflection be completely different than what I'm doing sitting down. I don't know if that makes perfect sense. I'm kind of rambling. I'm tired and I'm sick. Okay, let me try this again. I'm gonna sit on the floor next to the mirror and I won't face the camera. Then I'll take a second picture that will show my reflection in the mirror, and it'll be a completely different position than sitting next to the mirror. So I'm thinking maybe I can have a reflection where I'm like in the mirror looking at myself with shock. So maybe that's something we can do. So I think we should just get into it. I'll show you my lighting setup just like we did with the last one, and I think we'll just get into it. I do have a giant window here for natural lighting, so that helps. And I'm just gonna use this as my motivating light and have my big ring light match the temperature and just kind of light the scene appropriately. So let's get into it. I'll go sit down and I'll show you guys what we're working with.
You're always on my mind.
Baby, the happiest in the whole world. I just don't want to lose you. I want you to fight for us, no matter the cost.
To hold you. Gonna take a couple times to go away.
I'm begging you.
You're always on my mind.
All right, so I took my few pictures. I'm dying of heat because it's so freaking hot in this suit. So I'm gonna go change and we're gonna go over to the desk and we're gonna edit some pictures at last together after such a tremendously long day. So let me go do that. I'll meet you guys at the desk. All right, everybody, we're back at the desk. I am officially changed into new clothes and I'm not wet and I'm not too hot. So it's finally perfect. And as I said earlier in the episode, today we're going to be focusing specifically on Lightroom. We're going to take the pictures that need to be photoshopped and wait for that next episode. And that'll be our part 2. So don't fret if the picture doesn't look completely finished by the time this episode is done. But the first thing we're going to do is import our pictures. Nice and easy, we're just going to open up Lightroom, classic, little LrC. Oh shit. LrC is correct. That was a creepy picture. Okay, so you want to be in the library tab and you're going to go down to the bottom left corner and hit import. And it's pretty easy. It usually can detect exactly what you're going to be using. Like I just put an SD card in, so that new information is what I need. So these are the pictures I've taken today. If it has a check mark on it, it will import it. If you uncheck it, it won't take it. So it does have all of the raw files already. It doesn't import any JPEGs because I have that in a setting somewhere. If you're having problems, just look it up on Google because I can't remember where it is. So I have my picture selected and then I'll hit import. And basically you just have to sit here and wait for all the pictures to import into this new bin here. Okay, so we had quite a few pictures to go through. And see, as you can see, they're gonna load slowly. So I'll just cut to when they're done. Okay, so all of my pictures are imported, and after they're done, only then can we go over and hit develop. So here's all the pictures we took. Here's my 2 really crappy ones that didn't come out the way I wanted because the rain started coming in here. You can see these big ass droplets soaking me to the bone. I'm actually gonna start off with this one from outside. Or maybe let's do this one, okay? We got this nice full body, and the settings were even rushed, so it might not be the greatest camera settings. As you can see, my shadows are quite dark. The first thing in any photo editing process is choosing the right shot. So I have only 3 to choose from: an empty frame, this one of me in the middle, and this one of me inside. So I think we should just start with this one because it looks the crispest to me, but it's not centered and it's kind of bugging me. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the cropping section and make sure that this is a little bit more cropped in, okay? And that looks a little bit more centered to me, right about there, right? So that's my final cropped composition, and this is where we're gonna start the actual editing. So I think first and foremost, I usually have a LUT on the side here on my left that says presets, and I guess it's not a LUT, it's a preset. I get interchanged between video photo so much, but I have tons of options here. I have an 80s vintage vibrant. That looks pretty good, honestly. We have some analog. Sometimes there's a movie that I've seen that I'm like, oh, I wish I could copy those colors into something. So I have like Batman and an alternate Batman over here. Cine Film Rustic. Let's see, I got a dreamy one. I've got Dusty, very old vintage, like some shit you would find in a trunk of your grandma's attic. The ones I've been using a lot lately have been the fall ones. Another one I've been using a lot is my Japan V1, my V2, and my V3. So your presets aren't gonna go perfect on every single picture you ever take, but Japan 1 looks pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. So I think we're gonna start with either Japan 1 or my OLVRTWSTD. Both pretty good, but let's go with Japan 1. And the first thing I would like to do is fix the color temperature. I want to make sure this is the right warmth and tone and everything. So this windowsill in the back is supposed to be white, so I'm going to click that, and as you can see, that little eyedropper tool kind of automatically helped me get the right balance. Next, we're going to do our exposure corrections over here on the right. So we have exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, and then some more in-depth stuff for texture, clarity, and dehaze. So I do think this picture's a little dark, so I'm going to bring back some of these highlights a bit, and I'm going to bring these shadows up more and dial it back just a hair, about 77, so that way we can get some detail back in these bushes and like the shadow of the lion and stuff. And the whites I would actually like to push up just a hair. So we got some nice contrast going on with the sun coming in from this corner, right? And that's where our light is peeking in on this side of me. The blacks I think are a little too crushed, so I'm going to bring that back just a little bit. And I would say this is a pretty good picture already, right? It's a little flat, but I like that look. Maybe I'll punch in the contrast just a hair, and I would call this good, right? So our preset is just kind of like a nice jumping point, a nice platform to start from. And then you can kind of tweak things as you go. Now, in this preset, I have my clarity and my dehaze already up a little bit and my texture down. So I'm gonna bring that texture back because I have my foliage that I want to emphasize. Clarity just kind of makes that contrast even more intense. So I'm gonna bring that back and shoot it up just a bit. And then my dehaze, also kind of brings that contrast back into our shadows, right? If I pull that back, it looks like a close-up microscope of germs. The saturation is down a bit, and I'm gonna bring that back to 0. And I really like how this is turning out, even though it's not my favorite picture of the day, but this looks all right. Now that we have our exposure and everything fixed, the next thing I would like to do is go down to my color mixer and just play around with the different colors I have in here. So the red, I do have quite a bit of red in this photograph. I have the ground, I have this roof over here, some headlights over here, and green and red are great complementary colors. So I do want to mess around with the red and just kind of play with the hue. I'm gonna raise the saturation quite a bit. I think even 100%, just a little bit less, about 85. And the luminance, I'm gonna bring it down just so we get darker tones of red. Now, if we go play with the orange, this will mostly affect my skin, right, as you can see. But I do like how red it's making everything else. But the problem is it's affecting me too much. So what we could do is come over to this masking tab, and we can mask our subject, which is me right here in the middle, and it'll do this little detecting system to just mask out me, just me. And this is actually the wrong thing I want to select. I want to change the color of the floor and the roofs. So I'm going to right click and hit invert mask 1. Okay, so now that I have everything except for me selected, one thing that I could do is use the hue tab and make it a little bit more red and saturated. Right, not too saturated, but a little bit more. And I'll make this a little bit less pink. There we go. And now we got our red in the frame, right? Just subtle tweaks and it made a huge difference. So if we look at before and after here already, it's quite a massive difference. Everything is more clear, it's more punchy, it's more colorful. And honestly, even though this picture was not my favorite, it's turning out better than I thought when I was running away in the rain. So now that we've fixed some coloring issues here, this is looking much better, much punchier. We're gonna go back to this left tab here, the edit tab, and we're gonna go down to our curves over here. Now I would like to make a little S curve, and I'm going to crush the blacks just a hair, like that. And we're gonna bring these highlights up just a cinch, like that. And I'm gonna bring the mids up and down into a little S, like that, right? And that looks a little bit punchier than before, just a hair, right? Now, looking back, I'm not a huge fan of what it's doing to my foliage. It's a little too punchy. So I'm gonna actually undo some of that, and I'm gonna call it good right here. And that's just enough contrast to make it look where I need it to be. So my curves are done, and the next step is going back to our masking tab, because you can do so much in this tab, and it's my favorite part of editing pictures every time. So let's start off with making a mask. I want to kind of accentuate the lighting in my top right corner. So I'm gonna bring a linear gradient and I'm gonna shoot it down just like this on the picture. So again, if you guys are unfamiliar with Lightroom, this red space just means that is what's going to be affected. You can uncheck it with the checkbox here. So what I would like to do is raise the exposure just a little bit and blow out those highlights. You know what? Let's bring those highlights down a little bit so we get some more detail of this mountain here. Just like that. Perfect. Now I'm gonna bring the blacks down just a hair and the whites up just a bit. And now if we take a look at this before and after, so if I hide this mask, that's what we had before. And after. See, it brings a little bit more punch to this side. Now, the other thing I would like to do is myself looks a little dark. So I am going to use another select subject, and that'll be me again. And I'm gonna raise the exposure quite a bit, right about here. Now the contrast is a little harsh, so I'm gonna bring down the contrast a bit, bring down those highlights just a smidge, and bring down the blacks by 1. And again, I can just remove this amount here. That's before and after, and that made a huge difference. I look much more like the focal point of this photograph. Now, one last thing I would like to do is add one more linear gradient to this corner over here, seeing as how it's much darker. I want to get that shade in. So I'm gonna bring those blacks down just a smidge and the exposure overall. And check that out. We got a much cleaner looking image. Now, this is not everyone's favorite look, but it is, in my opinion, a really good photograph. So I think it's time to move on to our next pictures over here in the laundry room. Now, these pictures ended up being a little bit dark, so maybe we can start off with this shot, okay? I do think this is at a weird Dutch angle by mistake, so we're gonna fix that real fast. This shot was actually inspired, not the specific position and like subject posing, but the idea of having this in the laundry room with this one single light, the idea came from the movie Joker, and I do have a preset for that, so maybe it could be a good use to us here. So let's just apply it and see what happens. We'll raise the exposure quite a bit. And just like that, that looks pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. I think we should raise these highlights a bit more and get that beam a little bit blown out. color balance, we're gonna click the wall because it's supposed to be white. Now, I think that was a mistake. I think it should be a little bit closer to something like this, right? So sometimes the eyedropper tool is great and does its job, but at other times you've got to be the one going in and doing it manually and making it look like something that looks correct to you, right? Highlights look good. The shadows, I think, yeah, the shadows look great. The whites, I'm gonna raise it just a hair, just like that. And then I'm gonna bring the blacks down just a smidgen. Now the texture looks fine. The clarity, I think, also looks great. The clarity can help with halation vibes and things like that, right? So if I blow it all the way out, it can make it look really elated or glowy, you know. And then dehaze, I think we're also looking good on dehaze, and that looks great. We got our jumping off point. We've tweaked the exposure. Now it's time for some color correcting. Now my skin, if I play around with the orange, it'll help me get a tone that I like better. So the blues, I think we can mess around with the blues, but there's not much blue to play with. It's mostly gonna be the greens, I think. The green is mostly affecting the light above me, so I'm gonna shoot it all the way to 100 and make sure that light does look green. The reds is mostly just affecting my lips, so let's get a close-up on that and just make sure my lips look like the proper color. Next, I'm gonna make a small S curve here, just a slight one, just like that. And we punch in our look a little bit more. Now, the next thing I would like to do is, I think, go to our masking tab and start making some cool stuff. So let's start with a radial gradient this time, something a little bit more interesting. I'm gonna make a bit of an oblong shape, and I'm gonna rotate this bastard just like that. And let's shrink that closer like this, just like that, all right? So there's my mask. I'm gonna uncheck this so it's easier to see, and I'm gonna raise the exposure just a little bit. And I'm gonna raise the highlights and see how that makes it look, just like that. Now, a fun thing you can play around with in the masking tab as well is the effects, your texture, your clarity, your dehaze. Now, as I mentioned before, the dehaze can give you that glowing look effect, and I'm gonna make it just a little bit at about -20, and I think that looks pretty good. Next, I'm gonna bring another linear gradient, and I'm gonna bring these on the sides here, just like this. And for these, I'm gonna actually lower the exposure and make it a little bit darker. I'm gonna make one more on the opposite side of it from the other door, just like that. And we're gonna lower the exposure just a bit, just like that, right? That way we can still see the hard edge of this door just a tiny bit. And I think this is looking fantastic. This looks like a great photograph, and I'm gonna go ahead and export this. Now, if you wanted to do some finishing touches and add some grain, that's always a fun way to continue. Let's see, sharpening, here we go, grain. So we can do a fair amount, about 25, the size could be about 37, and then you get your grainy look, all right? You can see it much more in every detail now. Let's pick the right shot here. I like that one. That one's pretty cool, but I like this quite a bit. I think we're gonna go with this guy right here. So instead of doing Joker again, we're gonna try something else. We got Jungle Dark, that one's pretty fun. Teal and Orange, Vintage, Vintage Alternate. Yeah, you can see a little bit of a Wes Anderson look. A little bit more pastel-y and clear and clean. This one looks pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of fuck with this look. So we'll do one with this Wes Anderson look, and we're gonna bring the highlights back. I'm gonna bring these shadows back in and just rein them in a little bit. These whites I think could go up a little, and these blacks, I kind of want to crush them back a little. Now with the clarity, that looks pretty good, right? It helps that softer look. The dehaze, also bringing a little bit of contrast in. I think we're gonna leave that as is. And while we're on these curves, let's just go ahead and play around with them just a hair. Just like that, right there. Now let's go to the orange tab and kind of fix my skin tone. There we go. I do like this red and green look, so I'm just gonna push the yellows to be more red. All right, I'm gonna shoot that all the way to 100 so we get that light looking green again. And yeah, it's looking really good. Let's try this again with our radial gradient. I'm gonna make this a little bit different this time and just show you like a different technique and like what you can do with these images. So I'm gonna make a really big gradient here, and we're gonna focus the circle in the middle right on the light. Now if I bring the exposure up just a little bit, look at that. It's like this really pretty, like this big circle here is how much it's gonna feather out. So it's just deteriorating more and more over time, but is more focused right here, which is great for accenting people or objects, but we're gonna leave it right there. And if we bump the exposure just like that, I really like the way that looks. Now let's select the subject and just kind of play around and see what can happen. And that's the most fun part about editing, is just kind of tweaking everything to see what you can do. So let's bring this down a little bit to be more blue and a little bit more green. It's kind of affecting the smoke too much, so I'm gonna bring the green back and rein in the blue a little bit. Alrighty. Now we can play with some clarity. Let's give it a pinch of clarity up and a little bit of dehaze down. Now if we go back to before and after, that's looking pretty sick. And I'm also going to crop this image a little bit more. And I think that looks quite clean. So we're going to export this bad boy as well. So let's do one more picture together, but I wanted to show you a fun technique. If you're ever like, I have a single album and I want every picture to look identical with like the same vibe, same feeling to it, what you can do is right click the picture you already finished, and you can hit copy settings, and you can even copy the masks if you so choose. So you can hit copy and then go to another picture you haven't touched yet. Let's say, we'll say this one. And you can right click, hit settings, and hit paste settings. And just like that, you get the exact same thing just onto another picture. So this is a huge shortcut that can help you out, and I'm gonna hit masking here, and I'm gonna do a radial gradient on my face right away, just to give me some exposure, just showing people that I am in the picture, I'm still alive. And we're gonna do one more radial gradient. We're gonna make it focus on my tie a little bit and raise the exposure and the highlights. And what I liked about this picture is the mirror helps me look a little bit grainy and dusty, even though like over here, everything's very clean. Not like my best work by any means, but just to show you the point, like you can edit fast by copying and pasting and then adding minute changes, right? Oliver 2 and call it a day. So that is it for my photo editing process. I know I kind of jumped around a lot. When you're editing and you get the hang of it, you kind of just hop around a lot more. But usually I stick to the order of importing, locating the correct shot. Those are like necessary, you have to do it that way. Locate the desired preset that you want, you know, to have as your look for the photograph. Then I usually do my white balance, this little eyedropper guy, and all of my exposure settings all at the same time. Then I do color corrections, then I do a curve, then I do my masking, then I do grain if I'm gonna add grain to the photograph. Then I do my final touches in an export, and then I shoot that over into Photoshop, and that's where we're gonna carry off next time. So thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. Today was super hectic and long, and I'm just glad we got it over with. But this is it for today. I'll see you guys in part 2 of editing photographs. Peace out.
I'll hit you with my car. One sec, stay where you are. I think I know a place.